Elementary Algebra, Final Assessment 2, Review, questions 17 through 19. For question number 17, the instructions read, translate word for word or to a proportion, then solve. Question 17 reads, 40% of 700 is what number? Let's use both methods for practice to solve this problem. Let's start with the word for word translation. When we're working with the translation, if we have a percentage present, we'll need to convert the percentage to a decimal form before we continue. We do that by moving the decimal back 2 places or dividing by 100. Moving the decimal place back 2 places creates a 0.40. Next, we continue to read on. So that 40% is now a decimal. We see the word of. If we look back into the book, we know that if a percentage precedes the word of, meaning if there is a percentage in front of the word of, the problem will be a multiplication. So we know this will be multiplication, so I'll put a multiplication. So I'm going to take that 0.4 times the 700. The word is means equals, and then what number? Well, we can put any variable in here we wish. I'm going to put an n. So a 0.4 times 700 gives me 280 equals n. So there's one way to solve the problem. Let's take the same problem and let's use a proportion. With a proportion, we have the formula percent equals some part divided by the whole. We know the percentage to be 40%. Because this formula has a fraction on the right side, we'll put the percentage into a fraction form as well. We do this by putting it over 100 because we know that a percent is some part of 100. In this case, 40 of 100. Equals. Now on the other side, we need to determine if that 700 is the part or the whole, so we can plug it in. So it says 40% of 700 is what number? Of the 700. So that's actually the whole. We're trying to figure out the part. I'll use n again here. Now I can do a cross multiplication to solve the problem. So I'll cross multiply and I get 100n equals, on the other side I get a 40 times a 700. Let's move this page up a little for a little bit more room. So that 100n remains the same. 40 times 700 gets you 2800. An easy way to look at that is 4 times 7 is 28, and then add 3 zeros onto it. 1, 2, 3. It's you 2800. Now I'm going to divide that 100 out on both sides so that now it's cleared from the from the left side, and I'm going to divide that 100 in. Another shortcut is just to take off zeros. I take a 0 off here, I take a 0 from the top. Take a 0 from the top, take a 0 from the bottom. So I'm left with with 280 divided by 1, which is just 280. So both methods got me to 280. So I know I've done it correctly. Question number 18 is using the same instructions given for number 17, and that is to translate word for word or to a proportion. So in 18, let's start with that word for word again. We'll use both. So word for word. So in this one, we see what number. So we don't know what the number is. Again, I'm going to use an n. So n. is equal, because we have the word is, so I put an equal sign, 80% of 494. Again, I look at the of, and it's preceded by a percentage, so I know this will be a multiplication. Before I can multiply it, though, I need to put that percentage into a decimal form. So divide by 100, or move the decimal back 2 places, so I get a 0.8 times 494. So n is equal to 395.2. Let's look at this as a proportion problem. In the proportion problem, we start with the percentage. We put it in fraction form, so we have 80 over 100. On the other side, we're looking at a part and a whole. What number is 80% of 494? So our starting value, 494, is the whole. What we're looking for is the part, n. So I'll cross multiply out. So I end up with 100n equals an 80 times 494. So I have 100n equals 39,520. Lastly, I'm going to come in and divide by 100. So 100 and 100. So then n is left. Now when I do this, I'm dividing by 100. What I can do is just pull the decimal in, as there's 2 zeros here, pull it in 2 places. So this equals 395.2. The same value that I got when I did the word-for-word conversion. Question 19's instructions read, solve the problem. Question 19 says, at the end of the day, the storekeeper had $1,155 in the cash register, counting both the sales of goods and the sales tax of 5%. Find the amount that is taxed, round to the nearest dollar if necessary. So what we're looking at here are 2 parts. We have the goods plus the tax in the register. So let's give these labels. Let's say goods is equal to a G, or the variable G, and we'll say that tax is equal to T. Well, we know reading the first sentence, at the end of the day, the storekeeper had $1,155 in the cash register, counting both the goods and the tax. So that creates one formula for us. So we have $1,155 equals the goods plus the tax. This creates one formula. We're going to need another formula to solve. We have a second one in here. If we look, we know that the sales tax is for 5%. Tax is calculated as being the goods times the percentage. Well, we know that the percentage is 5%. We'll put that into a decimal form, 0.5 times the goods. Now we have 2 formulas. I can use the T I found here, which is equal to 0.05 G, and plug it into the T on my first formula and solve for G. So I have 1155 equals G plus the tax, that T, which I know to be 0.05 G. Smooth the page down slightly so we have a little bit more room to work. Continuing on, let's simplify the problem first. I have a G and a G. These are like terms. Now remember, in front of this G here, there's a 1, even though we don't see it. So this is 1 plus 0.05. So we have 1.05 G. On the other side, we have 1,155. We're going to continue. We want to get that G alone, so we'll divide out that 1.05 that's multiplying to it. We'll divide that out, and we're left with G being equal to $1,100. That's the goods. But the question reads, find the amount that is tax. Well, we have a formula up here for tax. Tax is equal to 0.05 times the goods. We know what goods are. So we'll come back, we'll take that original formula, that T equals 0.05 times the goods, which we now found to be 1,100, so that T is equal to 55. So our tax is equal to $55. Don't forget to use the dollar symbol to indicate this is money, so $55.